Hi everyone, welcome to this session of creating accessible content for our students. My name is Sheila Tulloch and I'm one of the Assistive Technology Specialists with the Halifax Regional Center for Education. Our goals for today's session are to know why designing with accessibility in mind is important for our students, and to recognize and know how to apply some common design elements which will make our documents more accessible for all. Before we start, I just wanted us to look at this slide and to think about accessibility for a minute. This slide is on a dark background, and consider ease of access when we look at the colors. Are there any of the fonts easier to read than others? What about the use of color? What about placement of the text? And how about the font size? We all have our personal preference for how we like to view information, but we must recognize that not all people can access information the same way that we can. An example of this could be someone with a color deficiency. So they can see color, but if it's not clearly defined, they may have difficulty. This is where Universal Design for Learning can help us out. UDL is about the design and composition of an environment so that it can be accessed and understood and used by the greatest extent possible. It's not about a special requirement for only a few, but considering the diverse needs and ability of all throughout the design process. It's similar to most things that when we try to retrofit or redesign something that's already been built, it proves to be more difficult than if we had just thought about it at the beginning. So by including accessibility into the design process at the beginning, we're being more effective and inclusive. Before we get started, I just thought I would recommend a couple of tips. The first is to know that this takes time, and don't put expectations on yourself to know how to do it all at the beginning. Second is I like to keep a list of some common accessibility elements that I can remember my design near my computer, so that as I'm designing something for a student, I can have a little checklist to go through it. The next thing is to be proactive and to remember that it might take a little bit of time to do these things at the beginning, but not as much time as if we had to go back and change it after the fact. So to get started, we're going to look at some headers and subheadings, and these should be created using the built-in heading features on your Google Docs or our website, whatever you're using, and not by keeping it as normal text and making the font bigger and then bolding it. So by using headers and subheadings, it allows screen readers to understand how the page is organized and to quickly navigate to content of interest. Now, I've put on here a link to a video that describes how to do it, but I am just going to show us here quickly as well. So I've got a Google Doc, and here, if I want to make these things titled, it's all normal text. We'll see up here that this is considered normal text, and maybe I want to make my title by just bolding it, and I'm going to make it a little bigger, and this is another sort of subsection that I have here, and I'm just going to bold that, and I'm going to make that maybe a 14 font, and the same thing with my headings here. By doing that, a screen reader would not be able to tell the person using it what headings are there, and it doesn't make it as accessible. So we can easily change that by, instead of just keeping this as normal text and bolding it and making the font bigger, we just have to highlight it and go up here and select that this is going to be my title. And I have it set up that the title will be an Arial 18 font, and it's going to be justified there. If I don't want my title to look like that, I can change it. Maybe I only want it to be a 14 font. And then when I click on the title, I can just say update title to match. And now every time I do a title, it will become with this font that I've made it. And the same thing with my headings. I can just say headings 1, and it's going to change it to my heading settings. The links here would be another heading, If I go down, this is another heading. So I am changing it using my heading features. If I want to include something else, and maybe this was going to be not maybe a secondary heading, then I can call it heading number 2. And then it will look a little different than my other headings. So just by using those simple little tricks in our Google Docs or our Word, whatever presentation we're using, it will make it a lot more accessible for our screen readers. So the next thing we wanted to talk about was hyperlinks. And screen readers can use a button on a keyboard or a shortcut to get a list of all the links in a document. So if a hyperlink reads as click here or learn more, it'll be more difficult to determine what's in that link. So for this reason, it's important to give meaningful descriptions for your links without relying on the surrounding content to give that description. And I'm just going to show you it here as well. So say I want to put in a link in this slide, and I have a YouTube video here which goes over how to put in a descriptive hyperlink, and I want to include that into my slide. So if I were going to include that here, I could just copy and paste it, and there's a link. Now that wouldn't give much description for someone using a screen reader as well. Or if I had put click here, again, it's not going to maybe tell them what it's about. So I want to make this link more accessible. So I can right click it, and this works the same as if you're in Google Slides or if you're in Google Docs. When we right click the selected text, and we can say link, and here is the link that we want the page to open up to, but it doesn't have to be the text that's on the page. So I can change the text that's written on the page by just putting in what I'd like. And I don't want it to be click here, so I want it to be more descriptive. I might say video of how to include descriptive links. And then I hit apply. And now there is the video of the video with a descriptive link. So someone with a screen reader would know what this link is for. Next, we're going to go over some design tips when we're looking at just designing something using Google Doc, Microsoft Word, whatever it is. We're going to look at our fonts, and using a sans serif font is probably the best. Something like Arial, Helvetica, Avant. There's lots of them. As long as it's a sans serif font, that's the most ideal. Also, we try and avoid italics or underlining for emphasis. Screen readers can't read that. And we like to keep the underlining just for hyperlinks. Instead, if we want to emphasize, maybe using bold. Avoid using all caps, as we know for some it's the equivalent of yelling as well. So we usually don't want that in our documents. And don't rely on color alone to highlight information, because again, a screen reader would not pick up that the font is in a different color. And finally, we want to left align most of our content and trying to avoid justification or centered. Finally, we're going to look at some captions here and who benefits from captions. So it's not just for students with hearing issues, although that is providing captions can make a huge difference, but it's also for students who are learning a new language, for students building early literacy skills, as well as students who need support when it comes to attention and focus. So providing captions on a screen can make a huge difference. Now, I didn't provide captions on this presentation because I'm going to do it, add the captions in when I upload it to YouTube. But I just want to show you there are some easy ways to include captions when you're doing presentations. And I've included links to do how to add it with Google Slides. If you're using Google Meet, if you're in YouTube. I'll just show you here while I'm in Google Slides. I'm in the present mode, and when I just put my mouse on the screen and the bar comes up, there's captions. I just have to click on captions, and now it's going to have the captions for what I say. So something like this is very simple and easy to do in the classroom, but it can make a huge difference for your students. So providing captions as much as possible is a great way to become more accessible. PDFs are one of the most commonly used documents, but not all PDFs are created equally. Many PDFs are considered an image scan and therefore does not allow someone to use a screen reader or maybe an extension like Read and Write for Google Chrome to read the text aloud. If you want the PDF to be accessible, it has to be created using Optimal Character Recognition, or OCR. If you have a document that is not accessible, here's how you can make it. So if you're in your Google Doc, and I will just get out of my screen here for a minute, if I wanted to create this as a PDF, I could go File and Print. And one of the options that comes up as your destination to print is save as a PDF. Once it saves there, that will be a readable or an accessible PDF. Other ways you can create this is to, on your school copier, if you have a paper copy of something that you wanted, then you can do your settings on your photocopier to make it an accessible PDF, changing your OCR settings. And I have a link of how to change those settings on your school copier. And if you already have a document that's created, but the PDF is not accessible, then you can try an app like Snapfurter, where it works with your Google Drive, and you can drop that document into your Snapfurter folder, and it will make it an accessible PDF. If you want more information on how to make your PDFs more accessible, just reach out to one of your assistive tech specialists. And those are the tips that we had to discuss today. If you're looking for any more additional information, you can go to the National Center on Accessible Educational Materials. They have some great modules or how-to videos that you can work through in creating accessible materials. You can also contact your HRCE Assistive Tech Specialist, and you can reach out to us at hrceat@gnspes.ca. If you don't know which Assistive Tech Specialist is in your region, you can look us up at our Halifax HRCE AT website, or follow us on Twitter at AssistTechHRCE. Thank you very much, and if you have the time, we would really appreciate you filling out this survey. There is a link here. If you don't have access to the slide deck, you could just type this address into your URL on your computer. It's just a 2-question exit survey, which gives us some great feedback. And at the end, you will see my email address that you can use if you want to reach out to me or ask for a copy of the slide deck. Thanks very much.